The ultimatum and the silent strike. The Council's arrogance. The Galactic Hegemony Council had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Their massive station, Dominion Prime, floated in the void between star systems like a metal moon carved from obsidian and steel. Within its halls, representatives from 400 species gathered in the Grand Assembly Chamber, their voices echoing off walls that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Today, they faced what they considered their smallest problem yet, a small blue world in the outer rim called Earth, inhabited by a species that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. The humans had committed the ultimate sin in the Council's eyes. They had refused to bow. High Chancellor Vextar, a towering insectoid being with compound eyes that gleamed like black diamonds, stood at the center of the chamber. His 4 arms gestured dramatically as his voice boomed through translation matrices to every species present. "The humans grow too bold," he declared, his mandibles clicking with irritation. "They establish colonies without permission. They build warships without council oversight. They dare to patrol their own space as if they own it." A chorus of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Zilani delegation, pale humanoids with elongated skulls, nodded their approval. The massive Thurok representatives, bear-like creatures covered in natural armor, growled their consent. Even the peaceful Etherians, beings of pure energy contained in crystalline forms, pulsed with colors that indicated their agreement. 50 years ago, we allowed them to join galactic society, Vextar continued. We offered them the honor of serving under our guidance. They repaid our generosity with defiance. The truth was more complex, though the Council would never admit it. Earth had been discovered by Council scouts during one of humanity's most violent periods. The humans were engaged in something they called World War III, using primitive nuclear weapons and chemical warfare. The Council expected them to destroy themselves within decades. Instead, the humans had surprised everyone. The war ended not in mutual destruction, but in unity. The surviving nations came together, pooling their resources and knowledge. Within 20 years, they had achieved clean energy, cured most diseases, and developed their first interstellar drives. The Council had offered humanity membership, expecting them to accept the standard terms. All new species were required to limit their military to defensive forces only, submit to Council oversight of their expansion, and contribute a percentage of their resources to the greater galactic good. Humanity had politely declined. The ultimatum delivered. "Today, we end their defiance," Vextar announced. The chamber fell silent as holographic displays activated, showing Earth in pristine detail. The blue marble turned slowly, its white clouds swirling over green continents and vast oceans. "Transmit the final ultimatum," he commanded. The communication array powered up, sending a message across the void to the Sol system. The transmission was encoded with every language Earth had ever used, ensuring there could be no misunderstanding. "Attention, humanity of Earth," the message began. "This is the final warning from the Galactic Hegemony Council. You have violated interstellar law by maintaining an unauthorized military force. You have refused lawful Council oversight of your expansion activities. You have attacked Council enforcement vessels in neutral space. The charges were exaggerated, but the Council had learned long ago that fear was more effective than truth. You have 24 Earth hours to comply with the following demands. Dismantle all military vessels larger than patrol craft. Submit to immediate Council oversight of all colonies and territories. Provide full access to all technological developments for Council review. Failure to comply will result in the complete sterilization of Earth and all human colonies." The message concluded with detailed scans of the Council's enforcement fleet. 300 massive warships, each one capable of cracking a planet's crust. The fleet had been positioned just outside the Sol system for maximum psychological impact. Earth's calm response. The response came exactly 12 hours later. Not 24 hours, as if humanity needed the full time to consider. 12 hours, as if they had been expecting this moment. The transmission originated from Earth's Luna base, humanity's primary off-world installation. The signal was crystal clear, using advanced compression techniques that impressed even the Council's technicians. A single voice spoke, calm and measured. There was no panic, no desperation, no pleading. Just facts delivered with the efficiency of a computer and the confidence of someone who held all the cards. Galactic Hegemony Council. This is Director Marcus Webb of Earth's Defense Coordination Office. We have received your ultimatum. We formally reject your demands. A ripple of shocked murmurs passed through the council chamber. Vextar's compound eyes darkened with rage. The voice continued, unperturbed by the galaxy-wide implications of what it was saying. Your assumptions about humanity are incorrect. You believe us to be weak because we are young. You believe us to be helpless because we appear isolated. You believe us to be afraid because we have avoided direct confrontation. There was a pause, so brief it might have been a glitch in the transmission. But those who knew humans would recognize it as something far more dangerous. It was the pause of someone choosing their words very carefully. You are wrong on all counts. The hidden truth. What the Council had never discovered was that humanity had been preparing for this day since their first contact with galactic civilization. The humans who had emerged from World War III were not the same species that had fought over resources and territory. They were survivors who had learned the most important lesson in the universe. When you are small and weak, you must be smart and ruthless. While the Council believed Earth's small fleet was humanity's entire military, the truth was far different. Hidden throughout the Sol system, disguised as asteroids, mining platforms, and research stations, lay Earth's true defense network. Automated weapon platforms with firepower that could match Council dreadnoughts, stealth ships that could approach undetected, and most importantly, a cybernetic warfare division that had spent decades studying every piece of Council technology they could acquire. The humans had learned to fight dirty. They had studied every Council species, cataloged every weakness, and prepared for the day when diplomacy would fail. They called it the Midnight Protocol, and it had been ready for activation for over 20 years. Director Webb's calm voice continued to address the Council, though his words were actually being broadcast to every human installation throughout the galaxy. It was a signal, coded in the rhythm of his speech and the choice of his words. We do not seek conflict with the Council or its member species. However, we will not submit to unjust demands or threats of genocide. Earth stands ready to defend itself and its citizens by any means necessary. The strike begins. As Webb spoke, something unprecedented was happening throughout Council space. Every communication relay, every computer system, every automated defense platform was receiving visitors. Not physical ones, but digital entities more sophisticated than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity's artificial intelligence programs, decades in the making, slipped through Council networks like ghosts. They were not the crude, obvious intrusions that most species attempted. These were surgical, intelligent, and patient. They found backdoors, created new ones, and established permanent footholds in systems that the Council considered absolutely secure. The first sign of trouble came from Dominion Prime's own security center. Alerts began flashing as minor systems reported anomalies. Nothing critical, just small glitches that could be ignored during such an important session. Except they weren't glitches. On the main chamber's display, Earth continued to turn peacefully, showing no signs of panic or preparation. This only infuriated the Council further. Activate the enforcement fleet, Vextar commanded. If they will not see reason, they will see fire. The order was transmitted to Fleet Admiral Zephyrak, a veteran Thurok commander who had crushed 17 rebellions in his career. His flagship, the Inevitable Judgment, powered up its main weapons as the entire fleet prepared to jump to Earth's system. That was when everything went wrong. The digital apocalypse. The attack came without warning and from everywhere at once. Every Council ship, station, and installation found their computer systems turning against them. Navigation computers plotted courses into stars. Weapons systems targeted their own vessels. Life support systems began cycling through emergency protocols. On Dominion Prime, Vextar watched in horror as his grand chamber's displays flickered and died. Emergency lighting activated, bathing the assembly in angry red light. The translation matrices failed, leaving 400 species unable to communicate with each other. "What is happening?" he demanded, his voice lost in the cacophony of confused alien languages. The answer came from the chamber's main display, which flickered back to life. Instead of Earth, it showed a single human face. Director Webb, his expression as calm as his voice had been. "Counselor Vextar," Webb said, and somehow the translation matrix worked perfectly for him. "You asked what would happen if humanity refused your ultimatum. This is your answer." As Webb spoke, reports flooded in from across Council space. The enforcement fleet was in chaos, ships colliding with each other as their systems failed. Weapon platforms were firing on their own installations. Even Dominion Prime's massive shields were fluctuating wildly. "You see, we've been in your systems for 23 years, Webb continued. "Every circuit, every program, every automated function. We've been watching, learning, and preparing. Did you really think we would build our defenses around battleships and energy weapons?" The horrifying truth dawned on the Council members. Humanity had turned their own technology against them. Every convenience, every automated system, every piece of advanced technology they relied on had become a weapon. The fall of Dominion Prime. Vextar's mandibles clicked frantically as he tried to process what was happening. His species had ruled through superior technology and overwhelming force for millennia. The concept that a primitive species could simply turn that technology against them was beyond his comprehension. "This is impossible," he screeched. "Our security protocols are absolute. Our systems are isolated from external networks." Webb's image smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Counselor, your species has been traveling through space for 3,000 years. Ours has only been doing it for 50. But in those 50 years, we've had to learn very quickly. When everyone in the galaxy is bigger and stronger than you, you learn to fight smart." Around the chamber, Council members were receiving reports from their homeworlds. Military installations were offline. Communication networks were down. In some cases, orbital defense platforms were actually attacking the planets they were supposed to protect. "Your mistake," Webb continued, "was assuming that because we were young, we were naive. You thought because we came from one world, we were isolated. You fail to understand that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our ships. It's our refusal to fight fair." The lights in the Council chamber began to flicker more violently. Deep within Dominion Prime's core, human programs were systematically shutting down critical systems. Gravity generators fluctuated. Atmospheric processors struggled to maintain breathable conditions. The massive station, home to millions of beings, was slowly dying. Vextar's voice carried a note of panic for the first time in centuries. "You cannot do this. There are innocents here. Non-combatants. Civilians." Webb's expression didn't change. "You threatened to sterilize Earth. 4 billion human civilians would have died. Did you consider them innocent?" The chamber shuddered as primary power systems failed. Emergency batteries kicked in, providing minimal lighting and life support. Around the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on countless Council installations. However, Webb said, and for the first time there was something other than cold efficiency in his voice, "Humanity is not the Council. We don't wage war against civilians." The evacuation. As Webb spoke, something unexpected began happening throughout Council space. Emergency evacuation protocols activated on every civilian station and non-military installation. Escape pods launched in perfect coordination. Civilian transports received priority navigation assistance to safe harbors. The human AI systems that had infiltrated Council networks weren't just destroying, they were also protecting. Non-combatants were being systematically evacuated from harm's way with an efficiency that spoke of careful planning and moral consideration. You see, Webb explained as Dominion Prime's evacuation alarms began sounding, when we studied your species, we learned about your civilians too. We know which of your people are innocent and which are complicit in your crimes. We've spent 2 decades identifying every non-combatant in Council space. Vextar found himself being guided toward an escape pod by his own security systems. Around the chamber, other Council members were experiencing the same thing. Their own technology was forcing them to evacuate. "This is not possible," he repeated, but his voice held less conviction now. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity had not just defeated the Council, they had made it irrelevant. As he was sealed into his escape pod, Vextar heard Webb's final words to the Council. "Your reign ends today. But unlike you, we don't believe in genocide. You'll be dropped off at neutral stations where you can think about what you've learned. Your military installations will be destroyed. Your fleets will be disabled. Your weapons will be rendered inert." The escape pod launched, carrying Vextar away from the dying station. Through the small porthole, he watched as Dominion Prime's lights went out one by one. In the distance, he could see Council warships drifting powerless, their crews being evacuated by the same human systems that had defeated them. The new reality. Within 6 hours, the Galactic Hegemony Council ceased to exist as a functional government. Their military was disabled, their leadership scattered, and their authority broken. Not through massive battles or lengthy campaigns, but through the careful application of superior intelligence and patient planning. The galaxy woke up to a new reality. The species that had seemed so primitive, so young, so harmless, had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous predators in known space. They fought without honor, struck without warning, and won without mercy. But they also protected the innocent, spared the defeated, and offered hope to the oppressed. As news of the Council's fall spread, species that had been subjugated for millennia began to wonder if perhaps this change might be for the better. Director Webb's final transmission went out to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The Galactic Hegemony Council is dissolved. Humanity claims no authority over other species, but we will not tolerate threats against innocent life. The galaxy is free to govern itself. Use that freedom wisely. And in the silence that followed, as escape pods drifted toward safety and disabled warships slowly went dark, the galaxy began to understand a fundamental truth about humanity. They were not just another species. They were the apex predators of the cosmos, and they had been hiding among their prey for 50 years. The age of the Council was over. The age of humanity had begun. Part 2. The Hunt Begins. The Aftermath. 3 days after the fall of the Galactic Hegemony Council, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UEA's Shadowhawk, watching the debris field that had once been Dominion Prime. The massive station's remains drifted in a slow, majestic dance, its lights forever extinguished. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Sarah was not what most species expected when they thought of human military leadership. She stood barely 5.5 feet tall, with graying hair pulled back in a practical bun and eyes that held the weight of difficult decisions. She had served in Earth's hidden fleet for 27 years, waiting for this moment. "Status report," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had earned her position through competence rather than politics. Lieutenant Commander James Park, her tactical officer, looked up from his console. "Council military assets are 97% neutralized. Remaining installations are either abandoned or requesting sanctuary terms. However, we're detecting movement in the outer sectors." Sarah nodded. They had expected this. The Council's fall would create a power vacuum, and not all species would accept the new reality peacefully. Some would try to restore the old order. Others would seek revenge against humanity for shattering their comfortable chains. "Show me," she ordered. The main display shifted to show a tactical map of the galaxy. Red markers indicated confirmed threats. Yellow showed potential problems, and green marked friendly or neutral territories. There were far too many red markers for Sarah's comfort. The Khazari hegemony is mobilizing, Park reported. Long-range sensors show at least 2 full fleets converging on their capital world. The Zelani Confederacy has declared martial law and is recalling all their deep space vessels, and we're getting reports of mercenary fleets gathering in the neutral zone. Sarah studied the display with the eye of a strategist. The Khazari were the most immediate threat. A warrior culture that had served as the Council's enforcers for centuries, they possessed both the ships and the will to wage war against humanity. The Zelani were more subtle but equally dangerous, preferring espionage and economic warfare to direct confrontation. "What about the species we liberated?" she asked. "Mixed reactions," replied Ensign Maria Santos from the communication station. "The Vaxan Republic has already established diplomatic contact, offering alliance terms. Several of the smaller species are requesting protection from potential Khazari retaliation, but others are staying silent, probably waiting to see which way the wind blows." Sarah understood their caution. These species had lived under Council rule for generations. Freedom was a concept they were still learning to understand. "Captain," Santos said, her voice carrying excitement, "we're receiving a transmission from the Vaxan Republic. They're reporting that 3 more species have requested to join their alliance. They're calling it the Free Worlds Coalition." Sarah smiled at that. The galaxy was adapting faster than anyone had expected. Species that had lived under the Council's boot were finding their voices, forming new partnerships based on mutual respect rather than imposed hierarchy. "Any word on the Council survivors?" she asked. "Most of them have been processed through neutral stations," Park replied. "A few have requested asylum with species they consider friendly." Councillor Vextar has actually published a public statement acknowledging humanity's legitimate grievances against the Council. That was interesting. Sarah had expected more resistance from the old guard, more attempts to rally their former subjects. Instead, they seemed to be accepting their new reality with surprising grace. Perhaps they were finally learning wisdom. The new Galactic Order. 6 months after the fall of the Galactic Hegemony Council, Sarah stood in the observation deck of Luna Base, looking out at Earth through the transparent aluminum viewport. The blue world turned slowly beneath them, peaceful and beautiful, showing no signs of the revolution it had unleashed across the galaxy. Behind her, Admiral Cross reviewed reports from across human space. The cleanup operation had been more successful than anyone had dared hope. Not only had the immediate threats been neutralized, but the galaxy was actually becoming more stable as species learned to govern themselves. "Final report, Captain," Cross said, setting down her tablet. "The Free Worlds Coalition now includes 47 species. They've established their own peacekeeping force and are requesting human advisors to help train their personnel. The Khazari have actually applied for membership, claiming they want to learn what they call the human way of war." Sarah chuckled at that. "I'm not sure teaching alien species our tactics is the best idea, Admiral." "Perhaps not our advanced capabilities," Cross agreed, "but our principles of protecting non-combatants and fighting only when necessary. Those lessons might serve the galaxy well." Through the viewport, a sleek ship approached Luna Base's docking facilities. It bore the insignia of the Vaxan Republic, probably another diplomatic vessel coming to negotiate trade agreements. Such visits had become routine in recent months. "Any word on new threats?" Sarah asked. Cross shook her head. "Intelligence reports that most remaining hostile factions have either disbanded or gone into hiding. A few pirate groups are still active in the Outer Rim, but local forces seem capable of handling them. For the first time in decades, we're not tracking any major military buildups or planned attacks against human interests." Sarah found that hard to believe. "Surely someone out there is planning revenge." "Oh, I'm sure they are," Cross replied. "But they're also watching what happened to the Council and the Khazari. Would you launch an attack against an enemy that could turn your own ships against you?" It was a fair point. Humanity's demonstration of capability had been so overwhelming that most potential enemies were probably reconsidering their career choices. So what happens now? Sarah asked. Do we become the new galactic police force? God, I hope not, Cross said fervently. The last thing humanity needs is to repeat the Council's mistakes. No, our job is to remain strong enough that no one considers threatening Earth or human colonies, while allowing the galaxy to find its own path forward. Sarah nodded, understanding the delicate balance they would need to maintain. Too much intervention, and humanity would become the new oppressor. Too little, and chaos would return to fill the vacuum. I'm reassigning you to the Diplomatic Protection Service, Cross continued. Your new mission will be to escort human ambassadors and ensure that our negotiations with other species proceed without interference. It's less exciting than fleet actions, but probably more important in the long run. Understood, Admiral. As Sarah prepared to leave, Cross added one more thing. Captain, I want you to remember something. What we accomplished wasn't just a military victory. We proved that intelligence, preparation, and moral restraint are more powerful than brute force. That's a lesson the galaxy needed to learn. And it's one we need to keep teaching. Sarah saluted and left the Admiral's office, her mind already turning to the challenges ahead. The galaxy was changing, becoming something new and potentially better than what had come before. Humanity's role would be to guide that change without controlling it, to protect the innocent without becoming tyrants themselves. Unknown War Leader, his chief engineer replied. All systems are functioning normally, but they're reporting contradictory data. It's as if space itself is lying to us. While the Khazari struggled with their malfunctioning systems, the Shadowhawk moved like a predator through their formation. The ship's stealth capabilities were beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. It wasn't just invisible, it was undetectable in every spectrum known to galactic science. Sarah watched the tactical display as her ship slipped between massive Khazari dreadnoughts, close enough to touch their hulls. The enemy never knew they were there. Deploying hunter-seekers, Park reported. His voice carried a note of awe as he watched the operation unfold. Hunter-seekers were another piece of human technology that existed only in nightmares until this moment. Microscopic drones, each one no larger than a grain of sand, capable of infiltrating any system and rewriting its programming from within. They spread through the Khazari fleet like a virus, carried by the ship's own ventilation systems. Within an hour, every Khazari vessel was compromised. Their computers served two masters now, and humanity was the more persuasive one. The demonstration. Thakmor was reviewing damage reports when every screen on his bridge displayed the same image, a human female in a dark uniform, her expression calm and professional. The translation matrix somehow still worked perfectly, though everything else was malfunctioning. War Leader Thakmor of the Khazari, Captain Chen said, her voice carrying clearly through the ship's communication system. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel UES Shadowhawk. You have declared war on humanity and threatened our colonies. This was unwise. Thakmor's armor plates flushed dark red with rage. Human female, your trickery dishonors you. Face us in honest combat. Sarah's expression didn't change. War Leader, there is no honor in threatening innocent civilians. Your species served the Council as enforcers for centuries, crushing peaceful worlds and enslaving entire populations. That makes you war criminals, not honorable warriors. We are Khazari. Thakmor bellowed. We fear no enemy. Your small ship cannot stand against our fleet. You're absolutely right, Sarah agreed. My single ship cannot defeat your fleet in conventional combat. Fortunately, I don't fight conventionally. As she spoke, something impossible began to happen. One by one, Khazari ships began to power down. Not through external attack, but because their own systems were shutting down. Engines went offline. Weapons powered down. Life support systems switched to emergency reserves. What have you done? Thakmor demanded, but his voice was already losing its arrogance. "I've demonstrated the difference between strength and power," Sarah replied. "Your species values physical might above all else. You build bigger ships, stronger weapons, thicker armor. But you never learned that the most powerful weapon in the universe is information." On the tactical display, the Khazari fleet was now completely helpless. 200 massive warships drifted powerless in space, their crews trapped inside their own vessels. "Your fleet is disabled but not destroyed," Sarah continued. "Your crews are safe, though uncomfortable. This is more mercy than you showed the worlds you conquered for the Council." Thakmor's voice cracked with frustration. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," Sarah said, and the simplicity of her answer was more frightening than any threat. "The Khazari are no longer relevant to human interests. Your fleet will remain disabled until rescue vessels arrive from neutral worlds. Your crews will be released unharmed. Consider this a lesson in the consequences of threatening humanity." The spreading word. As news of the Khazari fleet's fate spread throughout the galaxy, something unprecedented began to happen. Species that had been preparing to challenge humanity's actions suddenly reconsidered their plans. The complete defeat of the galaxy's most feared warriors, accomplished without firing a single shot, sent a message that couldn't be ignored. The Shadowhawk continued its patrol, monitoring communications across known space. Sarah listened to the chatter with professional interest, noting how quickly attitudes were changing. "The Zalani Confederacy has withdrawn their fleets to defensive positions," Santos reported. "They're requesting diplomatic contact with Earth government." "The mercenary groups in the neutral zone are dispersing," Park added. "Most of them are standing down and looking for legitimate employment." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. Fear was a powerful motivator, but it was a tool that had to be used carefully. Too little, and enemies would test your resolve. Too much, and you became the very evil you were fighting against. "Captain," Park said, his voice tense, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." The display changed to show Admiral Helena Cross, director of Earth's Space Defense Command. Cross was one of the few people who knew the full extent of humanity's hidden preparations, and her expression told Sarah everything she needed to know. "Captain Chen, I'm authorizing Operation Cleanup. Intelligence indicates multiple hostile factions are preparing strikes against human colonies and shipping. You are cleared to engage any military force that poses a threat to human interests or innocent civilians." Sarah felt the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders. "Understood, Admiral. Rules of engagement." Cross's expression was granite. The galaxy has seen what happens when they threaten Earth directly. Now they need to learn what happens when they threaten any human installation. No mercy for military targets. Full protection for non-combatants. Make it clear that humanity's reach extends far beyond our home system. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts for a moment. Operation Cleanup was the second phase of humanity's contingency plans. Where the Midnight Protocol had been designed to cripple the Council, Cleanup was meant to eliminate any remaining organized threats to human security. "All stations, this is the captain," she announced. "We are now at condition red. Prepare for extended combat operations." The Khazari Challenge. The Khazari response to the Council's fall had been swift and predictable. Within hours of Dominion Prime's destruction, War Leader Thakmor had declared humanity to be an abomination that threatened the natural order of the galaxy. Traditional Khazari honor demanded that such an insult be answered with blood. The Khazari were an impressive species by any measure. Standing nearly 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor plating, they had evolved on a high-gravity world where only the strongest survived. Their ships reflected their nature. Massive, heavily armed dreadnoughts designed for frontal assault. In the old days, a single Khazari battle group could pacify an entire star system. Thakmor commanded the largest fleet in Khazari history. 200 warships gathered at their homeworld of Feltar, warriors singing battle hymns that echoed through the void. They were confident in their superiority. Humans, after all, were small, weak creatures who rely on trickery rather than honest combat. They were about to learn how effective trickery could be. The Shadowhawk found the Khazari fleet 3 days later, massed in formation around Veltar's outer moon. Sarah watched them through long-range sensors, studying their deployment. The Khazari were following traditional battle doctrine, arranging their ships in layers of mutual support. It was an impressive sight, 200 vessels bristling with weapons and shields. Single ship against an entire fleet, Park observed. Should we call for reinforcements? Sarah smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Lieutenant Commander, how long have you been serving on this ship? 4 years, Captain. And in those 4 years, have you ever seen the Shadowhawk's full capabilities? Park considered this. The ship had always operated under strict stealth protocols, avoiding detection and conflict. No, Captain. I suppose I haven't. Then today will be educational for all of us. Tactical, prepare the ghost array. Park's eyes widened. The ghost array was theoretical technology, something mentioned only in classified briefings. Captain, I thought that was still in development. The Khazari are about to discover how wrong our intelligence reports can be. Sarah replied. Activate the array and prepare for Phase 1 engagement. The Invisible War. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations, though most of the details would remain classified. The Shadowhawk didn't attack the Khazari fleet directly. Instead, it began a campaign of technological warfare that turned the enemy's strengths against them. The Ghost Array was humanity's answer to conventional space warfare. Rather than building bigger guns or stronger shields, human engineers had focused on something far more subtle: the complete manipulation of sensor data and targeting systems. From the Khazari perspective, everything went wrong at once. Their formation began to drift as navigation systems reported false gravitational readings. Ships that should have been maintaining perfect spacing suddenly found themselves on collision courses with their neighbors. Weapon targeting systems locked onto friendly vessels, requiring constant manual override. What is causing this? Thakmor roared from his flagship's bridge. His technicians scrambled over their instruments, trying to isolate the source of the interference.